Hey there, hi there, ho there everybody! Welcome back for another video. Today is the start of my official 100 subscriber special. Yes, and today we're going to be going over some tutorials. And you see I built a nice little arena here. See we got the 100 subs over there. That's you. And on the other side we just got some glass work here. Maybe a crown with some fireworks or candles, and it just looks like a celebration kind of thing. Now, this segment's going to have 4 different topics covered. The first one here is terraining, followed by structures, and okay. Anyways, then we have our natural builds, and maybe a garden, and how to work with that. And last but not least, we have our detailing. Without further ado, let's get started. Now, when it comes to terraining and terraforming, I feel that this is one of the most important parts of any build, because a good build starts with a solid foundation. And what you see here is the natural slope, I guess you could call it, that Minecraft gives its hills. But with just a couple extra grass blocks and dirt blocks, you can really give it a nice shape, and it gives each level a little extra space. So if you want to put a path going up here, it gives you enough room for some half slabs or even some staircase blocks, and it just gives you more room to work with, really, and it makes it look nicer. The same can be done for a cave or even a cliffside. See, this is kind of the natural staircase that you have in a cliff, but if you space it out like this, it can really make it look nicer. Well, and it can make it easier to go up the cave, too. The last thing I want to touch on here for terraforming and terraining is little ponds. These can add wonders to any natural build that you do. And especially with the aquatic update, we have a lot more blocks to play with. See, we have the seaweed down there and the kelp, and we have some sea pickles now, the lighting down there, and well, of course we still have the lily pads. Using a variation of these will give you extra height. You see the sea pickles are a little bit smaller than these. This has a little more animation and a little more shape than these do. And also adding the sugar cane on the edges, it just really adds that extra layer to your builds. And if you want, you can also add a little bit of the smooth sandstone to the edge, kind of make it like a lip of sand, like a sand dune kind of thing. Just adds a little extra feature here. Alright, next we're moving on to structures. And buildings too. Now, most of this area here is going to be focused on facing a building, but I just wanted to touch on roofs really quickly. You can see here we have a nice roof design here, and this is typically something that would be on the edge of a roof. You see, you get your logs and you taper them up this way. But one little detail that you can add that really makes the roof stand out is putting staircases here. Staircases on the top and underneath. You can see here it really gives it that little extra level of detail and gives it a little extra shape too. And then another thing before we get to the buildings here is a road design. Now, I featured this in another one of my videos here, the 1.16 video, but I figured I'd show it here too. This is using the new basalt block and shroom light. And the one thing that, well, I feel really makes this go well is it really looks like a stone road, and the shroom light, the texture of the shroom light, blends in really well with the basalt. And it adds light too, which is a plus. Alright, let's take a look at this house over here. You'll notice we have 2 different segments here. This first one here is one way that you could decorate a house. See, it's got a nice little window there, and it has a foundation, which is good. But there's techniques that we can use to really upgrade this. You'll see over here, this one looks a little fuller. It has really good depth because of this overhang, and it's got a lot of detail to it. And the one block that I like to use, well, it's not really a block, but the one thing I like to use for detailing on houses is trapdoors. These little blocks right here add a really nice fine detail whether it be to separate the foundation and the main wall of the house, or even for an overhang here like an upper lip. Combine these with some half slabs and you have a really nice gradient here for the house. You can also use some stair blocks here to make a nice little angle, and you can spice up your windows by making them 3 blocks tall, putting in some slabs on the top and bottom, and then putting in some fences here. Yeah, adds a nice little touch of detail. And one last thing I like to do on the bottom here, again, use the trapdoors. Next up, we're going to be talking about natural landscaping. You can see I built a little scene here with a lot of different parts here we're going to be going over. But the first one I want to touch on is pathways. A lot of people like to use, stone pathways or even plank pathways, using half slabs. But you can make really nice pathways with just a grass path. Now the grass path is a little bit lower than podzol or grass or coarse dirt, so it adds a little extra lip of detail, just that little extra depth. And if you put, a couple of raised areas, especially with the podzol, just a little raised area in your paths makes a big difference. Speaking of depth, another thing you can add to your landscaping is a platform. Now, most landscapes have large trees with branches that reach out with leaves on them, and of course you have your grass here with maybe some carpet for moss. But if you want something that's in between those two heights, consider adding a platform. You see, it's just staircases and half slabs, and then you can add a bush on top or some grass, and it really gives your build that extra height. When it comes to landscaping, having a gradient of height or having varying heights is really important. You see over here, the platform is somewhat of I guess you could say the large height of this piece. I put a bench here for a medium height, and then the smaller height would be, just these little raised areas here and possibly maybe a fence or two. Now when it comes to fences, these are simple yet effective ways for guiding people along the paths you want them to follow. And my favorite fence design is this one right here. It's really easy too. It just uses spruce fence and spruce trapdoors. What I like to do is crouch down for the middle trapdoor there and right click on the fence. It kind of gives it that little droopy feel, which adds a little extra detail. Now, of course, not all paths are going to be nice and straight. Some paths might be curved or diagonal, and you'll want to build your fences to follow the path. So sometimes you might want to build a diagonal fence. Yeah. And if you find that you have too many fences or too long of a fence, you might want to split it up too. Put something in between to kind of break up the textures. In this case, I put a bush. You can see you can use some green carpet here for some moss. Also adds a little extra lip of depth there. And you can put some ferns and flowers and even some custom heads if you have them. You can use pumpkins or melons, whatever you like. One more thing to mention about bushes. If you're making a bush, this open, airy, kind of block missing feel that it has to it is really important. See, there are some bushes that are very thick and condensed, but there's other bushes that have a lot of gaps and free-flowing spaces in between them. So you want to make sure you leave these gaps here in the bush. It really adds not only depth, but it adds a sense of realism to your builds. Alright, and for the nature section, the last thing I want to talk about here is lighting. Outdoor lighting can be one of the hardest sources of lighting to do because, well, you don't really have a house where you can put a candle or a lamp or something like that. But if you use green carpet for moss and for detailing, you can put lights underneath. Now, if you're working on a larger landscape build and you need a lot of light sources, here's something you can do to save yourself some time. Go ahead and get yourself some lanterns, some fence, and some trapdoors, and you can make yourself a nice little path border here. The big thing I wanted to show you though here is the fence and the lantern. You could put about 3 or 5 of these in between each lamppost, and it really helps to save time while effectively lighting up your build. Yeah, looks nice. And last but not least, we have detailing. Now these are detailing pieces that'll help add character to your build. The first 2 designs here are some outdoor designs. This one's a wheelbarrow, and this has been around for ages. I don't know who the original creator is, but it's literally all over. I've seen this on many servers, and I thought I'd just put it here in case you haven't seen it. The next one here is kind of like a pull cart. We have here the fence gates, just like we did on the wheelbarrow with the cauldron there. And on the back, I like to use these beehive boxes. They kind of look like crates, or what you'd store vegetables in. Maybe you're picking cabbage out of the farm and you put it there, or you can even put this in an open air market. Moving right along, we have some interior designs here. We have a table and a chair. This uses oak fence in a 3x3 area, a dark oak fence. And we also have some trapdoors on top. Now for the chair, we have a half slab with 2 trapdoors on the side, and we have a door on the back. But the one thing I don't see many people doing is putting banners on the door. This kind of adds like a little cushion to the seat that you're on, the backrest, and it really looks nice. And of course, what medieval castle wouldn't be complete? What medieval castle... Basically, every medieval castle needs a throne. This is kind of a little mini throne, I guess you could say. And you can sit up here, and if your villagers come up here and they're asking for emeralds, you can just go in here, grab your emeralds, and give it to them. It's kind of nice. Yeah, see, it's got built-in storage. This is mostly using trapdoors and stairs. The trapdoors are mostly for accents. Now, this next piece here is great for a mansion or, your final base that you make. And you don't have to use wood. You could use quartz, or you could even use sandstone if you want. The big thing here is the bookcase. You see, it looks like a small one, but when you come up, it's got a larger hidden bookshelf behind it. And you even have some hidden storage. Another thing you can do here is you can use the new chain blocks and hang them down, so you can have some lanterns, hanging lanterns, and make it look nice. Of course, the loom block back here, if you use the back of the loom block, kind of looks like an empty bookshelf. Yeah. Let's see. There you go. Now, last but not least, I have 2 designs for lanterns. Well, I guess more light post, you could say. This would be more for, say, a stone fortress, or maybe an ancient Aztec temple. Yeah. And this mostly uses andesite walls. The majority of this build is walls, with a couple pieces of andesite put in. And of course you have the sea lanterns or glowstone, whatever you want in the middle. I'll give you a quick look here. We have andesite walls going all the way up. We have an andesite wall in the center here, and then in the center of this is just a block of andesite. And it gives that nice shape there. Yeah. The next piece we have here is a standard lantern. We start off with some wood, put down some stairs in all 4 of the corners there, or all 4 of the sides. And then for this, I decided to use nether brick, because nether brick is the only block that has both a fence and a wall, which is really nice. And it gives that tapered look to it. Then over here, we just put down a wood with some trapdoors, put down our light source, and then just like we did for the bottom, we put more stairs at the top. And there you go, you have a nice little light. This would be nice in maybe a large village or even a city. Yeah. And there we go. That covers everything we have here. If you saw something in the build that you'd like me to go into more detail on, put a comment down in the comment section below and let me know. I'd be happy to do another tutorial video if you guys want to see something specific like detailing or maybe some natural stuff or even some terraining. Alright everybody, that's going to do it for today's video, but we are just getting started with the 100 sub special. Stay tuned for next week's video. I think you're going to like it. See you then.
Bye-bye.